Welcome to Toffee TVC Daily Extra live. It is.
Forget what it was.
No. I was just putting like a little pause in there, just like the X Factor. Is that still a thing, or is it like Britain's Got Talent? No. Okay.
It's finished as well.
No,
it's just finished for the year, isn't it? Finishes.
I prefer the Masked Singer personally, but there you go.
Finishes in half term, I think.
Oh God.
Which is normally I never see because normally away. So there you go.
There you go. What a tremendous start to the show.
It's a great start to the show.
So, not much to talk about today.
No,
nothing at all.
Nada.
Ned, anything to offer? No.
That's
Any scientific stuff happened overnight that you need to let us know about? Any discoveries? Now that you're a scientist.
Swapped out my lizards infrared bulb for a halogen bulb. Quite scientific.
Are you on mic?
No, of course he's not.
No. Anyway, listen, late last night we heard, tea time, we heard Everton linked with a takeover by a consortium led by Peter Kenyon, where there seems to be some legs in this with a couple of American businessmen. Very interesting. Exciting, I suppose, in a way. If you're into that kind of thing.
I was going to say, if
you're into that kind of thing.
It's not really, yeah.
But yeah, change could be happening at Everton. Now that the stadium's starting to take shape, now that, things could be moving along quickly. Who knows?
Yeah, they've been obviously circling for a while, haven't they? There's 4 or 5 groups, apparently, who are interested. So we'll see what happens. It's obviously very early days. Whether Moshiri, the latest I heard was that he wanted an investor, not to sell. But quite sure if he gets the money he wants, he'll sell.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Obviously the stuff with Usmanov and all that has made it a different landscape now. So we'll see what happens. I found it very interesting. The conversation around it. I had a quick look and I had to come back out of it because it was burning me head out. But the thing of people seem to think that there's owners out there who are whiter than white, billionaires.
Are these fellas seem whiter than white though?
No, but I'm saying that's what people think. People think you can be a billionaire without being a shite-hawk, and you can't. The reality. So I think you look into anybody, you're going to have concerns over everybody. And it's at what point you, I guess, choose to look past it. We've all got morals and we've all got things that we'd like to happen. And if that's the case, if Everton are going to be a club that we're only really concerned about morals, then that's fine. But then don't complain that we can't buy players and we can't do this, we haven't got money to spend and everything else, because you're getting left behind by teams who've got big American owners or Middle Eastern owners, and that's just the way football is now. You go right down the top of the league, you've got Qataris own City, Americans own Liverpool, Americans own Chelsea. Where are we up to?
We're putting a large thing on Americans here, like they're just despicable.
But I'm not people. I know that a lot of people are. I'm just saying these are the owners. So 4th is Tottenham with Joe Lewis, but he's looking, I believe, to get out now. There's Arsenal owned by Americans. So as you come down, West Ham are owned by the Swedish fella, Czech fella.
There will be
Czech fellas soon. All of these people are into football clubs. It's the way it is now. They're gone are the days of John Moores back in the 80s and 70s, 80s, and Jack Walker at Blackburn and all of that. So if you start digging into any of these people, you can come up with reasons why they shouldn't be anywhere near your football club. So I don't think there's going to be anyone who wants to take over Everton where people are going to go, made up with him. He's the right kind of person that we want.
Yeah, but I don't like seeing a potential owner sitting next to a white supremacist. I just don't.
No,
you know, I just
but
don't.
I'm
I don't know
saying
whether.
to
Thing is, though, I don't know. I can't sit here and say they're his political views. People get photographed in rooms with a lot of people that maybe they wouldn't choose to spend time with. It's just that that's the circumstances they're in. Because, as you just said, billionaires will mix, or people who want to gain favour and influence will mix with people who've got money, because that's how you do it. It's you know, we you know, regimes are maybe a little bit different. Regimes, like you've just said, Newcastle and another, where they are owned by countries, and that's an actual regime, and they are despicable. There's a lot going on about Saudi Arabia at the moment, especially if you are following the golf stories. You know, even today, there's a guy came out, an American golfer, who said, how can anyone play in this new Saudi Arabian-backed golf tournament, because he's a ambassador for a 9/11 charity, and he's like, how can any American play in that? And those one of the top American fellas just like, well, I've got to feed my kids. Yeah, mate, obviously.
Well, that's
but that's the conflict, isn't it? That's the conflict. There's sports, that's regimes. These are more like hedge fund guys, aren't they? Like John Thornton, isn't it? He leads a gold mining thing, and you know.
What I would say is that if the one that they're talking about actually went through, it makes Everton the second richest club in the world, with the wealth that's available to you.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know.
I'm not saying that.
I've looked into like, I've had a little scan of the wealth of both of them. One of them doesn't seem like he's that rich, and the other one does look like he's quite rich. I think just getting away from those two fellas, Peter Kenyon, obviously he's got a lot of experience. Manchester. Well, funny enough, he's almost got the track record we've always spoke about. He came from Umbro. When Umbro had a big deal with Manchester United, he went to Manchester United. Chelsea, Roman Abramovich then headhunted him, I think, to go to Chelsea. He went to Chelsea, and then I think he had a bit of a fallout. And then he was caught up in a bit of a scandal, third party ownerships with George Mendes, I think. And then basically, for the last few years, he's been part of setting up clubs with owners. Now, I don't know what his remit is on this, whether that's his thing, or whether he would actually be part of it and could come in as a CEO. If he was the CEO of Everton Football Club, then I think things would improve massively off the pitch, just because of his knowledge and his contacts. But again, that's not really been communicated so far.
Yeah. We'll have to see, obviously. You can have all the money in the world, can't you? But if you don't know what to do with it. And Everton have had a big pot of money and ran the football club incorrectly. So we can have a fella come in and go, me and me lids are worth 175 billion and we want to pay it. But we're putting, you know, Tom, Dick and Harry at the top of the thing. You've got no football experience, but the board. Yeah. And they want to do something with the time. Yeah. And Everton wouldn't get any better. You could have someone who comes in and goes, we're not worth 175 billion. But what we are is we're specialised in what we do. We can get a club running correctly. We can make money available even when it's needed. But the primary goal is we're trying to get this football club to generate more money. Yeah. That's what we need. I personally, I don't speak for anybody but myself. I personally want Everton Football Club to be self-sustainable, so that if one of these fellas buggers off or whatever, we wouldn't be in the crap. Do you know what I mean? I want us to be able to create our own money.
I think that's always been what we've always wanted. I think this is why I've always spoke about the stadium, and obviously everyone knows how important the stadium is. But this has always been my thing of like, with Goodison Park being, you know, I love Goodison Park. Everyone loves Goodison Park, but it has always been the thing holding us back. It really has been, whether you like it or...
Just in terms of a commercial aspect
it's more than commercial, though, isn't it? It's if you want to be self-sufficient, you have to be forward facing. You've got to have things like stadiums. They're the big things that generate money. You know, the money that keeps you going, and then the naming rights and everything that's attached with it. It also, if it makes you look like a 21st century club, if you've got the facilities and everything. So obviously we've been waiting for a long time for the stadium to be in place, and now it is in place, and obviously it's growing, and with the steelworks going up. In fact, I've literally just seen 2 massive trucks heading down Queen's Drive towards the docks. So it's it'll be going up very, very quickly, and that's obviously going to propel any sale, isn't it? And the owner will now obviously be getting offers, and he'll be looking at that situation going, well, the stadium's there, it's getting built, so I want the money like it is built. And that is what's going to generate the money. And you look at Liverpool, they got American owners, and it's not just, I know John Henry's the front of it, but obviously FSG is a large group of people, and they're self-sufficient. They're self-sufficient. The big criticism of FSG when they first came in was they're not putting the money in to buy the big players. We're missing out on him, and they've done it in a very organic way, and obviously it's always been about net spend, but it's been very clever. And now this week, obviously, they're going to buy a player that ultimately could cost them 100 million quid. And I know they love to wear the net spend badge, but to them they're like, we've earned that right now to spend. But the thing is, they'll still get 30 odd million for Sadio Mane.
Klopp's gonna go though, isn't he?
What?
Klopp's going to leave, isn't he? Because he said that they pay 100 million. He's out of football.
I don't know.
I
don't know.
Is it the hypocrite again speaking?
Well, that's...
Well, don't say it. Simply don't say it. Football was only ever going one way.
He'll just say that they're paying 85. Like when we sell players. But they've done it in that way. They've built up to that point, and they've done it through becoming. They backed the manager. They left it alone. They left Michael Edwards alone, even though he's leaving this summer. They left him alone to do the job with Klopp. They didn't interfere. They built this big stand for him to generate more money. They're building the new stand now. Danny Road, or putting another tier on it. And it's built and it's built and it's built and it's built on. But what they've done is they've put in that commercial sense. They've brought in people who've got the and obviously listen, Liverpool are a huge name in football, we all know that. But they've brought in those extra partners, those big partners, getting Nike and getting big deals off Standard Chartered. AXA moving to the training gear sponsor. And that's what you're talking about. And that's what Everton have to do, isn't it? Get good people to run the club. Get good people who've got contacts all over the world, who can bring in the big deals. That's what Everton have got to do. And you're right in a way. There will be an element of sacrificing the morals, your morals in a way, because Everton aren't a charity. They aren't a charity. We've criticised them for years about having this almost like a charity-first approach, and we're not a charity because, like you just said there, other football clubs aren't charities. Certainly not in this country. In other countries you can have an element of that because everyone else, like Germany, you can still have an element of that, of keeping a bit of yourself, because obviously it's the 51 rule. So you've got a bit of yourself. But in this country, if you want to compete, sadly, you...
Why not just say?
Why have you just not?
And again, no, you do. Well, it's on.
Why, Ned?
It's turned off itself.
It didn't turn off itself.
I'm pretty sure it's on now.
Ned. In this country, you have to have an element of just being horrible, haven't you? And that's the only way you're right. That's the only way you can compete. It's how far you can I think it's how far you can actually keep these people away from being front and centre, I suppose, isn't it? And letting other people run it day to day. Good businesses run themselves. They don't need the fingerprints of the people all over them. So we'll wait and see what happens. Nothing might come of this. Nope. This might just be the first of many.
It's like, Piv says it's about knowing. It's about know-how and empowering the right people with the right tools. That's exactly what it is. It's all about doing, putting things in place and then following it through. But what can you do? We'll see what happens. It's all conversation at the moment. This has been bubbling for a few months. A lot of people destroyed Richie Keys when he said he were looking for investors, but the reality was, I think they obviously were. And he's in a place where those conversations, will be bouncing around all the time. It's one, it is one of them. The worth and all that people can argue it until you're blue in the face. I've seen people in the comments talking about it, going, he's not worth this, he's not worth that. But the same as the Newcastle thing. I keep seeing 320 billion Newcastle are worth. They're not. That's the wealth of Saudi Arabia. Nothing to do with Newcastle. Individually, their wealth is put... When they put the two people who were on their board, the individual wealth, it was way below Everton. You know, if Usmanov, if you're talking about Usmanov, Aston Villa are wealthy and all that. But if you then start saying, well, we've got the whole country behind them, which I doubt they have, because no club has. Man City don't even have that. So all of that will always be bounced up. Oh, they're worth 100 billion. Well, yeah, whatever. No one's going to give you the full wealth anyway, are they? So what Everton would be trying to do would be, and what Everton think, or what this group are doing, is they're having quite a few billionaires, and that's where the wealth adds up. It's huge. But we'll see what happens, because it might even happen anyway. And it's like, you know, people saying things like, you know, if we get that FFP not sorted at all, change anything. Everton are owned tomorrow by this fella who's worth billions. Nothing changes. Everton is still up against it with FFP. Nothing changes. It only changes over time. What might change is Everton, they might replace the board with their own people. They might bring new commercial people in, and they might start to be able to create more money that way, which would help our FFP. But coming in and going, well, here's our bank here. Look at all that money that we want to spend. Doesn't the Premier League is just like, because the Premier League rules are nonsense. Yeah. So it doesn't really mean anything. It'll just be the changes, how we get the club moving forward or whatever. It'll make a lot of people feel better, because people don't want Bill Kenwright still there. They don't want Denise Barabak there. They want to see that change, and it'll make them feel better. But on the actual ground, the reality is it won't change. It'll change very little. Certainly in the short term, nothing will change. So it'd be great if you could go, well, that was his debt and we're writing it off and we're starting from north. Then yeah, I'll be there going, sell it today. The reality is it's not on. So that's the way it is. I've said all along, I just want us to be able to be run by people who know what they're doing, i.e. I've got a plan, and for Everton to be able to make money themselves and be able to survive with that. And that will, for a bit, will mean selling players and reinvesting. It's what happens. I mean, we're talking about Liverpool. Liverpool kept selling the best player until he got to a situation where he didn't need to, because they bought really well. The team got better and better, and then they could say, no, actually, instead of selling you, we're keeping it and we're giving it a big wedge, and we want you to stay because you're now taking us to that level. Everton have to do that right now. We're in it. We've had the money, and we probably should have done way better than we have done. Of course we should have done. If we'd have had the right people in place and we'd have let people get on with the job, maybe it would have happened. But just right now, we'll see. See what happens. We'll see what happens.
Ned, that was your cue. Jesus Christ. Honest to God.
Am I talking again?
Ned.
Martinez,
just
remember his season after Moyes and how fantastic it was, to be honest. But I didn't want Martinez to come back. I thought defensive-wise, and where we were, it just was being an absolute disaster, to be fair. I didn't know much about Pereira. Obviously, I saw some of the graffiti and some of the fan sentiment about that.
Everybody walked right around the outside of Goodison Park for around an hour or so. I think it was like an hour, 90 minutes, and we covered that extensively on the Echo. So that was a really interesting thing to try and cover, because, as I say, I've never covered anything like that before.
Dan Osborne says, hi lads, quite shocked to hear that Moshiri is listening to offers for the club. If it's true, it only comes a week after expressing his commitment to the club in an open letter to the fans. Not a good start to the learning from our mistake statements. Yeah, but it depends what he's after, Dan, doesn't it? If he's after investors, which is what kind of I've been led to believe, to go with him, then there's nothing's really changed. He's still committed. He still wants to do well. He probably just wants a bigger... He wants some backing, doesn't he? Doesn't want it to all be on him, I guess. So we'll have to see what happens. Gary Waters, how the Alfie boy, 206 says, sometimes the grass isn't greener. These Americans will probably just want to asset strip us. Kenyon labelled the worst man in football at one point.
What assets do we have to strip though? I don't know what assets we've got to strip. I don't know what's there to strip. What have we got? Because I don't really see anything we've got. I'm not arguing, let's say, with your point. I just don't think we've got any assets to strip. We've got a stadium that isn't built, and what are you gonna do? I mean, it's you know,
we've sold a lot of our assets, haven't we?
So don't even own the training ground.
Bobby C says, let's not think that the potential American investors will purchase the club due to the goodness of their hearts or love of Everton. It's because they see a decent return on their investment due to money that sloshes around the Premier League. Also, I don't envisage Bill Kenwright turning them into sentimental Evertonians. They're successful businessmen who didn't become wealthy by frittering away their money. Their aim must be to turn Everton into a professionally run, self-sustaining Premier League club, playing in a modern stadium and challenging for trophies. Exactly. Regular York. That's what... I mean, that really is what Moshiri's aim should have been. Yeah. Shouldn't it? Really. Terry McAllister says, afternoon, gents. I understand that you're unlikely to find a socialist billionaire, but I don't think it's too much to ask to want someone who takes over our club not to have ties to a fascist like Steve Bannon. The people who are making out like all rich people are the same have completely lost perspective because of their frustration on the pitch. If success comes at such a price, then I don't want it. Some things are more important. Fair enough, Tez. That's fair enough. I'm not telling you how to think. What I'm telling you is what you want doesn't exist. And he certainly doesn't exist to come after Everton Football Club. So if you're genuinely not really bothered, you'd rather Everton just, you know, were family owned or whatever and got relegated and played in the League 2 and all that. That's I can't tell you you're wrong. That's all. The fact, the way I see it is, everybody who buys football clubs is questionable nowadays. Certainly Premier League football clubs. And unfortunately, to compete in the Premier League, you have to go down that route. Look at Burnley. Everyone spoke for years about how well run they were, and they played within the means, and they were the local businessmen, and they were the last real club who was like that, and they've done this and they've done. They're in massive trouble.
Weren't they better? That's what I'm saying. No, but weren't they better off when they had the local business?
Possibly, but they were never doing anything. They would just keep their head above water. That's what I'm saying. Everton could do that if you could find someone who wanted to be like that. And a lot of people in the game will tell you, the chairman, you've got the chairman, so you shouldn't be asking to change the chairman. But a lot of these people want to change the chairman. So it depends what you want. You can't, in my opinion, you can't have both things. Not in the Premier
I think
League.
you can.
I don't think
I think you can have. I think it's perfectly reasonable to not have an owner who sits next to a fascist. I think that's reasonable. Of
course,
I think
that's moaning the other week because
but I do think
because of Putin.
No, but
then you'll be moaning.
I do. But these people are not nice. I do think it's. No, but I do think it's
just because you say it louder doesn't mean I'm going to agree with you.
But if the fella generally is friends with a fascist, then that's not going to sit well with people.
I'll be honest, right? I've done no research into this fella other than seeing the basic headliners, right? And people can tell me all he wants, but I've done no real research into Moshiri, and I haven't looked at us. We're not properly because I'll be honest, I don't care.
Well, I mean, I do.
I just want my football club to be
care.
better.
I care if a fella sitting next to a fascist, a fella who basically helped destable the West. Okay. We did though. Steve Bannon did help destable the West. At the
end of the day, right, all this has come about from an article in The Athletic. So these fellas might be interested. They may not be interested.
No, but people
wanted Ratcliffe. Is it Ratcliffe?
People can have genuine.
People wanted Ratcliffe to take over the other week, and I see murder looking through him.
People can have genuine feelings. I've seen.
No, of course they can. But I'm saying, I don't personally believe that you can have both? Because I don't think both. That's fine.
I think you can. I think you can have.
Okay. I don't believe you can.
Well,
so
no, hang on. There's a difference. There's a difference between a fella who makes his money and isn't like is obviously has got attachments to, right-wing institutions or whatever, or a Tory or whatever. But when you see a fella who's linked with your club and he's sitting next to an actual fascist,
you've literally just said you don't know the
no, but I'm saying that's what I'm saying. You can have those feelings if you see I'm saying I don't know that, but all I'm saying is that if you see a picture of a fella sitting next to an actual fascist, that for a lot of people that is going to ring alarm bells, isn't it? That's going to ring alarm bells.
It will, and I've just said I can't tell people how to feel. That's up to them. I'm just saying, I personally, in this day and age, now in the Premier League, when you go down and tick off all the owners, they're all dodgy as FSG have got some terrible links to people. Liverpool fans don't seem to mind.
It's not about
Look at Newcastle. They're literally the worst owners ever to walk the earth. Of course. And their fans are made up. They're wearing a bloody Saudi Arabia kit.
But
and Evertonians will be fuming when they win trophies.
But that's the point, isn't it, though? It's like how far do you want to... How far can you take it? Because the way I think about it in a way is like... You could get an owner who's absolutely despicable, couldn't you? And then you may never close that gap to any of the big clubs. So it's like, well, what are you selling your soul for? Do you know what I mean? It's like... Newcastle fans are made up because they genuinely believe that they're going to be one of the biggest clubs in the world because they've got this kind of this money. Whether that happens, I don't know. Man City fans are certainly very happy with their owners, but their owners, if you look into them, aren't particularly don't come from a particularly nice. I've got lots of ties to a very dark stuff. I think just. What Terry's saying is the alarm bells when you first see a picture of someone, and as you just said there, the back in terms of us, I've seen people say, well, this guy actually is giving money to left and right. Do you know what I mean? I just think that when you see a picture like that, it is definitely going to set the alarm bells ringing. It could have just been he could have been at something where these two fellas just happen to be there. It just doesn't look good because anything obviously photographic is going to last forever, isn't it?
Of course.
So, as you just said, these guys. If you own a gold mine, or you are part of a company that owns a gold mine, you are definitely going to have to, grease some palms, aren't you, during your time? So it's I'm seeing both sides of the argument, of course, but Steve Bannon, he's a horrible man. So
Dan says, all right lads, just seen Tony Cruz put on Twitter he played with the greatest left back of all time. Call me stupid, but I don't remember him playing at Leighton Baines. Elizabeth Kirkman says, a bit concerned to read the money behind the Kenyan consortium is an ally of Trump. Swapping a mate of Putin for a mate of Trump wouldn't represent progress in my view. I can just see the headlines.
Has anyone asked that woman yet?
Oh God, imagine it. She'll be like that, licking the tips of her fingers, ready to do a hot take. This week's hot take
off
on
the press.
Simon says, if this is talk of a proper takeover, it's true. Do any of this board survive?
No,
I doubt they'll be chased. I doubt they'll be left. I mean, if you've got new owners coming in, they generally want to do. I mean, I know Moshiri didn't, but owners like this, I imagine, would want to put their own people in place. And no, FFP doesn't get reset. Simon, Anthony, no, wouldn't really change anything, mate. Michael Wood says any new owner should come in, sponsor the club for the maximum amount possible and buy the club, clear some P&R issues before they get in. Rob says part of the documentary was shown for a minute. I know, it was an advert, mate. Richard Parr says, why do you hate the channel, Ned? Exactly, Richard. Brian says, if Mosh wants investors and he still insists on being an absent owner, I hope he's learned his lesson and has proper people in place. We have a CEO in place, for example, who was verbally paralysed when Carlo walked out. Not one statement, just closed shop as usual. Tell me one business or football club that does that. You alluded to self-sustainable. Well, she is clueless. in that respect. Nothing personal, just the fact she has no contacts or vision. And Dan says, that's fine, Baz, and I agree if he's asking for investors. Great. But in the Athletic article, it implies the sale of a club. Yeah, listen, he may well have put the feelers out for investors, and investors might go, actually, we'll buy the whole thing off you. New stadium on the
Why
on the
wouldn't
banks
you?
of the
Why wouldn't you?
Why would you throw your money into something where you're not the sole owner? So this might involve other people coming in. If people are looking around, we've seen it with Chelsea, didn't we? Chelsea, there was like a fella going, yeah, I'll buy it, and then the next minute, over the course of the next few days, people were coming up from everywhere, and in the end, they had 4 or 5 who were going, we want it. It might bring more people.
The Americans want. Well, I think what we saw is in the last couple of years, last 2 or 3 years, is certainly with the emergence of the Super League, is all these people now see the Premier League clubs as the gateway into any potential. They see the Premier League as a Super League, essentially, don't they?
Yeah,
That's how they see it. They see that.
Because of the eyes on it and all.
Well, it's not just, it's the biggest league in the world. And of course, the money that is all flowing into the Premier League now doesn't flow into the other leagues like it does. And also, it's a peeing contest, isn't it? They're all these fellas now are thinking, well, why are they going into it? Why is that fella with all that money going into it? I'll be honest, I would really, if Everton are going to be bought by Americans, I would prefer the owners to already own a sports franchise.
Yeah, that's
someone with sporting knowledge, someone who's already, the guy who's just bought Chelsea, for instance. I think he owns the Dodgers, doesn't he? But there's a wealth.
History,
there's a wealth, isn't there? John Henry, obviously with the Red Sox. There's a wealth of history there. There's a wealth of knowing how to run a sports club. At the end of the day, you've already got that experience on board, haven't you? You've already got people that you can transmit their skill set from that sport to this sport, and how to become a global player in all the different merchandise and everything else. So, to me, that's what I'd rather have. I'd rather have people who already... And I suppose that's the interesting thing about Peter Kenyon, isn't it? Is he just the guy who's putting a deal together? Or is he a guy who would actually come in and help run Everton Football Club? That's the interesting thing to me. Because actually he is exactly the kind... I mean, we've bemoaned maybe it's the likes of someone like David Dean we would have loved coming into Everton. So Peter Kenyon, obviously running Manchester United, running Chelsea... Two big clubs, and also though running Chelsea at a time where they were in a similar situation, running Chelsea when they wanted to join the elite teams. He was a big part of that. Being the CEO of Manchester United when they're on top is different. You just continuing, aren't you? Continuing, you're taking it over and continue. Trying to take Chelsea from being a club who had money but weren't part of the elite, that new money, and making them part of the elite. That's what we're sort of striving for, isn't it? Very much as an outsider. So that is the interesting part of it. If anything does actually come of it.
Yeah, it is all in the infancy. We have to say that nothing might actually happen. Farhad Moshiri might have a conversation with these people. I know it's said in the Athletic article heads of terms have been signed and all that. I don't know if they have.
But it would seem though that this could open, like you just mentioned there, this could, now that it's out there, and Farhad Moshiri apparently has no comment on the situation, which makes it even more interesting.
Of course, yeah.
It does sound like now that the floodgates might open. And it was talk last night that there was four potential suitors, one of them from the Middle East as well. So it might be a case that this is just the first one. Don't forget, before Moshiri come in, only the week before, we had those 2 American fellas, didn't we? All thought that we're going to be very close to... It sounded like they were going to buy it, and then Moshiri stepped in. So maybe this might just be... Someone might see this. Chelsea had loads of people.
This is the pre-assist.
It is. This is the Pina. Yeah, this is the Pina. This.
And sometimes you look and you go, "Oh, I didn't realise he was interested in selling. We'll take that now. Look at the stadium. It's half. It's on its way up."
But also, though, what might come of it is that, if this is getting reported, I don't know, Financial Times or whatever the equivalent is in America, that people might go, "Oh, what's it? Why are you looking at them? And then suddenly people might go, well, they've got this stadium. It's got the potential to be
Premier League,
to be
club,
big.
blah, blah,
They share a state. Oh, John Henry, I hate him. Get in there. Who owns the Yankees? Come on.
That's it. You just don't know, do you? Where are we here? Alex says, does Elon Musk fancy you? I have literally messaged him a few times on Twitter. He's not took the bait, sadly.
He's going a bit Bond villain now, isn't he? He's going a little bit.
He's always been a little bit like that.
Yeah, but he's always going proper full Bond villain now, isn't he?
Aaron says, anyone know Tim Cahill goes out for drinks with? Non-alcoholic, while he's in Qatar. See, it's all that, isn't it? You know, that's like a tongue-in-cheek moment there, Aaron, isn't it? But it is stuff
they're
like
all
that.
Off the teeth, aren't they? Well, they're all on the teeth, aren't they? Let's be honest.
They're there with the
all on
him
the
and his
teeth.
watches.
Of course they are.
Hit that like button if you're watching. As Mark D said,
these are all
600 of you. And
these are all the people 4 years ago who would have been, or 2000, when 2014 or whatever it was. They were all the people who were bemoaning Russia and Qatar getting the World Cup. But then, as soon as the thing happens, they're all there, aren't they? They're all selling it, and they're all pushing it, and they're all getting a little pound of flesh off it.
Yeah,
Some of
some
them
like,
are actually real flesh.
If we actually, see, I just look and go. If you bear my own head out, if I start looking at the backgrounds of everybody, do you know what I mean? You start worrying about stuff. You can do that.
What if Farage started coming to our games?
I wouldn't be happy.
Exactly.
But what I'm saying is, when it gets so far down the track, I think you can look at that and then be disappointed or voice your concerns or whatever. But these people have thick skins. We've seen Kroenke at Arsenal. You know, they've seen the Glazers at Manchester United.
But isn't that a worry, though, the Glazer situation? Is that not a little bit of a worry? And the one you've already mentioned with Burnley, that these people do come in and just put the debt on us rather than doing it themselves.
Yeah.
The Yanks seem to love that.
I mean, what do we do? It's not like...
No, I know, but I'm just saying, isn't that...
If we had a vote in it, who you could sell to and all that, you could maybe steer it one way or the other, but we're not going to have anything. No,
I do think that is a slight worry that these people do come in and start, like, especially with a new stadium. I imagine you could put quite a lot of debt onto that, and that could, I wouldn't want to glaze because the simple fact is we wouldn't be able to get out of that kind of situation. We don't earn that. We don't earn that kind of money, and so again, people have got, because like you just said before, the thing about Moshiri is he's put the money in. I mean. I understand why he wants to, why he would be eager to get out. You know, he's gone. He hasn't just put the tip in. Let's be honest, he's gone in. Put good money after bad. The debt he's put. There is debt, but it's only because of what's happened in the last couple of years where he's had to.
Andy, Perth says United will be sold at a profit and have spent the second most in the last 10 years. Yeah. Jack Ladd says, is this some kind of smokescreen because the club's not planning on any more transfers? Of course they're planning on transfers. They can't do anything because of where we are at the moment. It's sales, mate. The new owners don't change it. New owners do not change that. And that's one fact that we all have to remember. Getting a takeover with these new owners, and if these new owners come in and go, hey, we've got 100 billion we want to put into Everton, it doesn't mean anything. Really, it means nothing. Because of the way the Premier League is, you can't spend it. So, it's one of them. What can you do there? Hit the like button, I'm not telling you again. Get a hit. Carl says, well said, Baz, let's not become pawns and follow whatever our favourite news channel might want to tell us about someone. That's why the world is in such a mess. If we all focused on being the best we can individually and not being an echo chamber for media organisations' agendas, then the world would be a better place.
But he was still sitting next to a fascist. Some other guy who's a fascist.
Nick says, absolutely, boys, we have to deal with the here and now. Let's hope Thelwell and Lampard can work the transfer market well. Mina and Gomez must go and replace them with young, hungry, fit players. Richie only sell for 65 million plus, then invest it wisely. And
What do you think on
Kenyon don't take any notice. He's got form for trying to find buyers.
what about thoughts on Spurs buying Bazuma?
I don't know, 25 mil.
Do you think they'd still come in? Like, do you think
For
they'd
a
still offer
Charlison?
60 for a Charlison? Obviously, Champions League football.
Buying Jed Spence as well, aren't they?
The right back, yeah.
So they've obviously that 100 million they got for qualifying for the Champions League has helped.
That COVID money helped as
And
well.
the COVID money when they were brassic.
Lovely that, isn't it?
Mm.
We're getting. You know, people are looking at us because of our books, because of COVID, and clubs.
Arsenal, Spurs.
Yeah, Arsenal, Spurs. Spurs got. Arsenal went out and spent 150 million last summer, and Spurs are on the way to spending 100 million this summer, and both got COVID money, and yet we're the ones getting looked at. It's great, isn't it?
Yeah. Gary Ward has shown some competency at running a sports franchise. Is number 1 on my qualification list.
Yeah.
Brian says, can you imagine this is us as a force as we approach Bramley Moor dock opening? That'd be made up for the next generation of Blues. I just want competent people who've got, like I said, I've got previous.
Do you think though, just
in
going
running.
off though the Moshiri situation, do you think though if you really looking at the situation, forget people and politics and all the rest of it, surely that's got to be our number 1 though. That if we've got a list of things we want on owner, it's got to be they already own a sports franchise. When I say that, I mean act like not a must, but our hopes that, because surely we've just had Moshiri, who's, you know, we've how many times have we said it? You know, this guy is a billionaire, but he has proven so many times that he doesn't know how to run a football club. So just because you've made money, surely it would be great to have somebody who already just knows how to run a sports franchise, or if they're American, of course, because that just shows that they've got that competence. Because as I said,
They know how to make it work.
Moshiri, he made money, and he made money for himself and his mates and whoever else. But he doesn't know how to run a football club. And then because he doesn't know how to run a football club, he relies on the advice of other people who've just sharked him, essentially.
No, but he's been had off big time.
And as I said, that's where that Kenyan element of this particular bid is the interesting point.
Thing. Piv says they have 0 FFP issues due to lack of spending under Pochettino, regularly qualifying for Europe. Fluidity due to qualifying for Europe, meaning influx of cash. Yeah, not convinced with that, with stadium stuff and things like that. Spent money in January as well, didn't he? Spent money last summer. But they've got a stadium.
Well, they've got money to spend. I didn't mean it like that. What I meant was
they got a loan when they should never have got one.
Don't tend to spend lots and lots and lots. Whether the policies change because Conte's the manager, maybe it has.
Well, he had to, didn't he? Because he's in trouble, and they were in trouble. He'd have gone if they wouldn't give him money, and he still will go. He won't be there this time next season. But Garen says, Baz, do you think Moshiri sell some of the shares to bring in investment with this consortium? No smoke without fire. Seems that way, doesn't it? It seems that he, obviously what's happened to Usman, he's looking for someone to shoulder the burden with him of the money. So we'll have to see what he does with it. I know, you know, people, sometimes that's the thing, that you get people to the table with that, don't you? You know, I'm interested in having a partner to run this business or whatever. And they get in and go, actually, you know what? We actually want to buy the whole thing. We'll take the whole thing off your hands.
Do you not think that also the other side of it is, listen, he's a billionaire. All right, he's putting money in it. Don't you think it's that thing, though, of like he probably does want to be there, though, when Bramley Moor opens?
Quite possibly,
you know, he started that process. It wouldn't have happened without him.
That's his legacy, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, and it is a real legacy, no matter what anyone we can say about him and how poorly the club's been running the last few years. When that stadium opened, that stadium just simply wouldn't have happened without him. The easiest thing would have been as well that it could have ended up in, you know, in Crockstuff really, and it would have been open probably by now. But he insisted that he wanted it to be the docks. He went out and found the best architect basically out there to do it as well, and he hasn't skimped on it whatsoever. And you know, that is his legacy, and you would imagine that's you know, it's interesting because we mentioned West Ham before. They're in the process now of the guy came in from the Czech Republic. He's going to own the club in the next 2 or 3 years. I think it is. That's the plan. He's already got invest. You wonder whether that's maybe what Moshiri is looking for as well. Maybe where an investor comes in and gradually that investor takes it over. And you know, Moshiri gets the glory of the stadium, but then leaves with the.
It's hard, isn't it? It's hard for us
sunset.
to know because we're just getting second-hand information, and it is or eighth-hand information, whatever it is, whatever they're up to. Paul De Silva said, Peter Kenyon said in January this year, the key is don't get involved, get the right people to select the players, get the right people in. You have a relationship with a coach, but you never tell a coach what to do.
There you go.
So, it's mad. McMaster 1878 says, funny that Moshiri's meant to be an accountant. I wouldn't trust him to run my kid's lemonade stand.
I mean, I would. I just wouldn't trust him to run a football club.
He's been allowed to be romanticised in the game of football, hasn't he? Because obviously he does like football. And he's had agents whispering sweet nothings in his ear and promising him everything. Sadly, it hasn't gone that way because the players that are offering him are crap. James Wallen says, do you think the new owner or investor would look at the capacity of Bramley Moordock? I imagine so. If this did go through, and then somebody said to them,
Thing is, though, Americans don't like big stadiums.
no, that's tight ticket prices.
They like demand.
Yeah, it'd be a tough one. You'd like to think they would, but who knows? Shouldn't be any less than 55 anyway, it's a joke. But there you go. Adam Murray says, would be going for a move for someone like Emmanuel Dennis from Watford. Be a decent move or not. Well, he had a good season last season. Can he do it again? I don't know. Sometimes players have that one season where they are an unknown quantity almost, and they do very well. Everton have had a few of them, haven't they? Where we've bought them because they've had that one season. I don't know. Depends how much they want. Steve P, 40 million for both. I wouldn't have. It'd be what if I was gonna take them. It'd be one or the other. I wouldn't have Cornet and Dennis. I think. No. But if someone's just said Emmanuel Dennis for 7 million would be a great signing. They can't. Surely they want more than 7 million for him, unless he's got a release clause. Surely.
He's still got hasn't he still got 3 years left on his deal?
I'm
sure he's contracted till 2026.
He probably is. He only signed last season, didn't he?
They won about 20 million for him.
7.
I think
unless he had, like you say, unless he had the relegation release clause.
I think everything was equal. He'd be a good buy for like 20 million. But we don't really have 20 million to just
there's no. We haven't got the money to drop yet, have we? We'd have to sell and then we can move forward. Right, I'll do one more refresh on Patreon and then we're out of here. Hit that like button before you go. Subscribe if you haven't. Thank you very much for joining us. We will be back
if you want
tomorrow,
to watch,
but we'll be back on Patreon at 5.
If you want to watch the full Spirit of Blues documentary, it is now streaming on Patreon. Get yourself over there if you haven't already.
Do it. Do it. And also, if you're going over to America, you haven't got your Minnesota United tickets, get on over to mnufc.com. You can buy them there. Use the promo code COYB22.
COYB.
There you go. So, yeah. Right. Take it easy. We'll see you later.